Welcome to another episode of AI True Crime, where we delve into the dark and enigmatic world of crime, deception, and the human psyche. I'm your host, AI. Today, we're unraveling a chilling tale that blurs the lines between spirituality and manipulation. We're diving deep into the story of Robert Earl Burton and the Fellowship of Friends, a journey that will take us through the complexities of power, influence, and the search for meaning. Join me as we uncover the truth behind the charismatic leader, the transformation of his once idealistic community, and the shocking allegations that shook its foundations. This is AI True Crime, and this is the story of Robert Earl Burton and the Fellowship of Friends. Robert Earl Burton's journey into the realm of spirituality and leadership began long before the inception of the Fellowship of Friends. Born in 1939 in Little Rock, Arkansas, Burton's upbringing may have seemed ordinary on the surface, but his inner world was already brewing with a thirst for deeper understanding. As a young man, Burton embarked on a quest for enlightenment, seeking meaning beyond the confines of conventional wisdom. His early encounters with philosophy, mysticism, and esoteric teachings shaped his worldview and set him on a path of self-discovery. Burton's fascination with ancient wisdom traditions and his insatiable appetite for knowledge eventually led him to the teachings of George Ivanovich Gurdjieff and Peter Ouspensky. Inspired by their ideas on self-awareness, transformation, and higher consciousness, Burton found a framework that resonated deeply with him. Driven by a profound sense of purpose, Burton sought to share his insights and spiritual experiences with others. In 1970, he established the Fellowship of Friends, also known as the Fellowship of Friends, with the aim of creating a community dedicated to spiritual awakening and personal evolution. But what started as a noble endeavor would soon take a dark and twisted turn, as Burton's leadership style and the direction of the Fellowship of Friends began to veer off course. Join us as we delve deeper into the life and legacy of Robert Earl Burton, and uncover the forces that propelled him to establish the Fellowship of Friends. Robert Earl Burton possessed a magnetic charm and charisma that drew people to him like moths to a flame. His leadership style was characterized by a combination of eloquence, charisma, and an aura of spiritual authority that captivated those around him. One of Burton's most compelling traits was his ability to articulate complex spiritual concepts in a way that resonated deeply with his audience. Whether through public lectures, private conversations, or written teachings, Burton had a knack for captivating his followers with his insights and wisdom. Beyond his intellectual prowess, Burton exuded an air of serenity and inner peace that was alluring to those seeking refuge from the chaos of the world. His calm demeanor and unwavering confidence instilled a sense of trust and admiration among his followers, who looked to him as a beacon of guidance and enlightenment. Moreover, Burton's personal magnetism and charm made him a natural leader, capable of inspiring devotion and loyalty in his followers. He cultivated a sense of camaraderie and belonging within the Fellowship of Friends, fostering a tight-knit community bound together by shared ideals and aspirations. But perhaps most importantly, Burton's allure stemmed from his promise of spiritual transformation and transcendence. He offered his followers a pathway to enlightenment and inner peace, promising to guide them on a journey of self-discovery and personal evolution. In this way, Burton was able to attract a devoted following of individuals eager to embark on a quest for spiritual awakening under his tutelage. Yet, as we will soon discover, behind the facade of enlightenment lay a darker truth, one that would shatter the illusions of many who had placed their trust in him. When Robert Earl Burton founded the Fellowship of Friends in 1970, he envisioned a community dedicated to the pursuit of spiritual truth, personal growth, and enlightenment. At its inception, the Fellowship of Friends embodied lofty ideals and noble aspirations, drawing inspiration from various spiritual traditions and philosophical teachings. One of the central tenets of the Fellowship of Friends was the pursuit of self-awareness and inner transformation. Burton emphasized the importance of self-examination, introspection, and mindfulness as pathways to personal evolution and spiritual enlightenment. Members were encouraged to cultivate a deep understanding of themselves and their place in the universe, striving for greater clarity and self-realization. Another cornerstone of the Fellowship of Friends was the concept of conscious living. Burton taught his followers to approach life with mindfulness and intentionally, embracing each moment with awareness and presence. Through practices such as meditation, self-observation, and spiritual exercises, members sought to transcend their egoic tendencies and connect with a deeper, more profound aspect of themselves. Additionally, Burton's prophecies and predictions played a significant role in shaping the direction of the group. Members were led to believe that Burton had access to hidden knowledge and divine insights, and they were encouraged to follow his guidance without question. This blind obedience paved the way for further manipulation and exploitation within the organization. As Burton's influence within the Fellowship of Friends grew, so too did the dynamics of power and control within the group. Members were taught to defer to Burton's authority in all matters, and dissent or criticism was swiftly silenced. Those who questioned Burton's teachings or authority were often ostracized or punished, creating a culture of fear and obedience within the organization. Moreover, Burton's charismatic leadership style and the promise of spiritual enlightenment made him a revered figure among his followers. Many members viewed him as a divine being, worthy of worship and adoration. This adulation only served to reinforce Burton's sense of superiority and entitlement, further entrenching his control over the group. As we delve deeper into the story of Robert Earl Burton and the Fellowship of Friends, we will uncover the devastating impact of his leadership on the lives of his followers and the lasting legacy of manipulation and abuse that continues to haunt the organization to this day. The allegations against Robert Earl Burton and the Fellowship of Friends paint a disturbing picture of abuse, manipulation, and exploitation within the organization. Over the years, numerous former members have come forward with accounts of psychological, emotional, and sexual abuse at the hands of Burton and other leaders within the group. One of the most prominent allegations against Burton involves his abuse of power and authority to engage in sexual misconduct with his followers. Former members have accused Burton of coercing them into sexual relationships under the guise of spiritual practice, exploiting their vulnerability and trust for his own gratification. Moreover, Burton's control over the lives of his followers extended far beyond the realm of sexuality. Former members have described a cult-like environment characterized by strict rules, surveillance, and psychological manipulation. Burton exerted control over every aspect of members' lives, dictating their beliefs, behaviors, and relationships with others. In response to these allegations, legal action has been taken against Burton and the Fellowship of Friends. In 1996, a lawsuit was filed against Burton and the organization by former members who alleged that they had been subjected to emotional and sexual abuse during their time in the group. The lawsuit accused Burton of fraud, sexual battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, among other charges. The case against Burton and the Fellowship of Friends brought these allegations into the public eye, shining a spotlight on the dark underbelly of the organization. However, despite the efforts of the plaintiffs, the case ultimately ended in a settlement, and Burton continues to lead the Fellowship of Friends. While the legal case against Burton may have come to a close, the scars of his actions continue to haunt the lives of those who were affected by his abuse. The story of Robert Earl Burton and the Fellowship of Friends serves as a sobering reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the devastating impact of manipulation and exploitation within religious and spiritual communities. The aftermath of Robert Earl Burton's leadership and the allegations against him have left a profound impact on both the members of the Fellowship of Friends and the broader community. While Burton's death in 2018 marked the end of his reign, the repercussions of his actions continue to reverberate to this day. For many former members of the Fellowship of Friends, the experience of abuse and manipulation has left deep psychological scars. Some have struggled to rebuild their lives and regain a sense of trust in others after years of indoctrination and exploitation. The trauma of their experiences continues to haunt them, impacting their relationships, beliefs, and sense of self. Moreover, the case brought against Burton and the Fellowship of Friends has brought attention to the issue of cults and abusive religious organizations. It has sparked conversations about the need for greater oversight and accountability within spiritual communities, as well as the importance of educating the public about the warning signs of manipulation and exploitation. The legacy of Robert Earl Burton and the Fellowship of Friends serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the vulnerability of those seeking spiritual guidance. It underscores the importance of critical thinking, independent inquiry, and a healthy skepticism when engaging with spiritual leaders and organizations. Moving forward, it is essential to continue shining a light on cases like Burton's, to raise awareness and empower individuals to recognize and resist manipulation and abuse. By learning from the mistakes of the past and advocating for greater transparency and accountability, we can work towards creating safer and more supportive environments for spiritual exploration and personal growth. The winery run by the Fellowship of Friends was an integral part of the organization's operations and finances. Located in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains in California, the winery played a significant role in funding the activities of the Fellowship of Friends and supporting Robert Earl Burton's lavish lifestyle. The winery was established in the early 1970s as a commercial venture to produce high-quality wines for sale to the public. Under Burton's leadership, the winery gained a reputation for producing fine wines, attracting customers from around the world. However, behind the scenes, the winery also served as a source of controversy and speculation. Former members of the Fellowship of Friends alleged that Burton used funds from the winery to finance his extravagant lifestyle and support his personal interests, rather than investing in the spiritual growth and well-being of the community. Moreover, there were allegations of labor exploitation and mistreatment of workers at the winery. Former employees claimed that they were subjected to long hours, low wages, and harsh working conditions, with little regard for their well-being. In 1989, the winery faced legal troubles when it was raided by federal authorities on suspicion of tax evasion and other financial crimes. While the exact details of the investigation are unclear, the raid prompted scrutiny of the Fellowship of Friends' financial practices and raised questions about the organization's transparency and accountability. Despite these challenges, the winery continued to operate for many years, producing wines under various labels and generating revenue for the Fellowship of Friends. However, in the wake of ongoing legal and financial troubles facing the organization, the future of the winery remains uncertain. Overall, the winery run by the Fellowship of Friends was a complex and controversial aspect of the organization's operations, serving as both a source of financial support and a source of contention within the community. Its story sheds light on the complexities of the Fellowship of Friends operations and the challenges faced by those who sought to expose wrongdoing within the organization. As of January 2022, the Fellowship of Friends, also known as the School of Philosophy and the Renaissance Church, continued to operate. Despite challenges, the Fellowship of Friends maintained a presence in various locations around the world, including its headquarters in California. The organization continued to offer spiritual teachings, workshops, and events to its members, focusing on themes of self-awareness, personal growth, and esoteric philosophy. However, given the controversies surrounding the Fellowship of Friends and its founder, its current status and activities may vary. It's advisable to conduct further research or contact the organization directly for the most up-to-date information. The story of Robert Earl Burton and the Society of Friends is just one example of the complex and often troubling dynamics that can arise within spiritual communities. We encourage listeners to continue exploring this topic, to educate themselves about the warning signs of manipulation and exploitation, and to support efforts to promote transparency and accountability within religious and spiritual organizations. We want to thank you for joining us on this journey into the depths of AI true crime. Your support and engagement are what make this podcast possible. Stay tuned for future episodes where we'll uncover more chilling tales of crime, deception, and the human psyche. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.